Today on the show, the pleasure of speaking with Justin Stoddart. Justin is the founder of Think Big Real Estate and Podcast, which is really focused on helping real estate agents do exactly that. Think bigger. As an industry leader and educator, Justin is intent on helping to reshape the value proposition of the real estate industry to the consumer, while helping real estate agents have stronger businesses that have a better life so they can use it to impact others. Over the past 2 decades, Justin has owned and ran and grown small businesses, and he's really become an expert and a thought leader in the marketing and branding and business strategy space. I'm really pumped and excited to have him on the show to share his incredible experience and his insight into branding in and around real estate agents. But enough out of me. Let's get him out here. G'day, Justin. Welcome to the show. How you doing today, mate?
Hey, thanks so much for the invite. It's a total pleasure to be with you today.
Mate, same back at you. We're talking a little bit in the green room before we jumped into this, but I did your show a couple of weeks back and I had a really awesome time. And we're talking a little bit about lighting, but it's sort of all the geeky stuff we do with podcasting. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of today's show, do you want to rewind the clock and tell me how you made your first ever dollar as a kid?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, outside of my own house, which is, occasionally you make kind of little chores in the house. My brother and I actually started a lawn care business. Back in the day, maybe some of you remember, this will age me a little bit, but there was a show called In Living Color. And it was this kind of hilarious spiff with these really funny African-American comedians. It was hilarious. It was called, again, In Living Color. And they would talk about how everything was Mo Better. And so we decided to actually have our company name called Mo Better, M-O-W, kind of a play on words, Mo Better Lawn Care Services. And we thought it was hilarious. I don't know if any of our customers did, but despite the name, they still hired us. And it was everything from mowing lawns to pulling weeds. And at that point, I started to realize, I get paid better by these people than I do for doing chores at home, which is oftentimes for free. It was room and board, but yeah, that's probably how it all began.
Awesome. And so walk us through the background of how you got to where you are today. Like, you didn't just wake up and you're Justin Stoddart, with his awesome podcast and real estate business. How did you become an entrepreneur?
My parents, they taught us from a very young age that owning something is probably the best way to get what you really want in life. And they were scrappy, very kind of limited formal education, but were very street smart. And they both built very successful businesses from the ground up. And we watched it from behind the curtain, right? From the outside, it looked like they just had this great rise. And we saw kind of the messiness behind it and really the people that they grew into. And so I aspired at a young age to be in business for myself. In fact, I never thought I'd be doing anything different. And when I spent a couple years overseas on a church mission, came back and went to work with my dad and stepmom at that point, flipping homes. We were flipping real estate properties. And they would fund the property and I would come in and do kind of the rehab work, and then we'd market it and sell it, split the proceeds. And although I loved the work, I realized a formal education would do me well. I wanted to be the person, not just rehabbing the property. I wanted to be the person that was actually putting forth the money and let my money work for me as opposed to me working for me. And so I went off to school, actually studied construction management. All the while in school, I was running my own businesses. I actually had a window washing business that put me through school. And then as I got a little bit further into school, I went to work for a high-end home builder. I realized okay, it's one thing to flip a home. It's another thing to build a multi-million-dollar home. I want to do that. And so I went to work for a general contractor who was savvy at getting new business, worked for him for a couple of years and realized that his passion really wasn't building high-end custom homes. It was land development. By that point, he had put me to oversee his custom home division. And so I kind of started to rise with his company as he grew. The market hit at a bad time for him. He was really over leveraged and ended up kind of selling everything off. In part was his custom home business. He sold that to me. And so I took that custom home business, building $1 to $2 million homes, pre-sold homes. So there wasn't a lot of risk in it. But I did that for the next number of years until 2009, when really there wasn't much, any really jumbo financing. There weren't any high-end homes, so to speak, of that were being built for the most part. And so at that point, my business had transitioned from high-end custom homes, a very fun, something I could really be proud of kind of putting my name on, to kitchen and bath remodels, because that's all that was left. And everybody was pinching you for every penny. And it just wasn't very fun anymore. And I had to ask myself, did I ever really love building homes? And the answer was no. I never really loved building homes. But really the passion for me was the thrill of building business. And I realized that the only way to build business was by building myself, that my business never outgrew me, that I would grow the business. And if I didn't keep up with that growth, I would sabotage its growth and it would be right back where I was at. So I really became a deep fan and advocate of personal development, and really aspired to be in a business that allowed me to focus on that full time, where working in my business was actually helping other people work on their businesses. And I was fortunate to have a good friend who was in the real estate space for years, and then transitioned into the title and escrow world. And we connected, and he offered me a job working for a title and escrow company, kind of in the traditional role of what some might know as a title rep, somebody who represents a title company, encourages a real estate agent to use them, or real estate broker to use that title company. That role didn't have a ton of value when I first looked at it from the outset. It was really a role that was kind of a liaison between the title department and the real estate agent. It was kind of more schmoozy. But my friend was wise enough to recognize that real estate agents needed much more than that. They didn't need another lunch. They didn't need another friend. They actually needed business advice, business consultation, ideally from someone who had owned and ran their own businesses. And so he hired me into that role. And for the past 5 years, I've been really kind of turning this role into something very different that looks more ideally like a thought leader, like someone to where real estate agents can not just look at me as another vendor, not just another good option, but as an essential partner to help them get what they want. And so that's really become a passion of mine. And now part of that process, I should say, has been actually building a platform, a speaking and teaching platform, which is Think Bigger Real Estate. And within Think Bigger Real Estate, I'm actually in the process of finishing up a book that really talks about that process of helping real estate agents and other well-paid sales professionals move beyond industry disruption, move above it, rise above it, and become valuable enough and become a good enough leader that both their clients as well as other industry peers need them, and they become an essential partner as opposed to just another good option. So that's where I'm at today, and really find passion in having built a really great book of business in the title and escrow world, while at the same time building an educational and speaking training platform that will allow me to scale and reach a wider audience.
Wow. a lot to unpack there, mate. It's construction management into high-end home flipping, now into title and escrow, and now into really niching down into a business to help other people work on their businesses rather than being in their businesses. And I think it's very important. Two things that you said there, just for those people who are listening and paying attention, is just the importance of building that brand. And obviously you're focused a lot with real estate agents, right? They're trying to be out there, facing the world, trying to attract business. But regardless of where you're at regardless of what business you're at in, I should say, you need to be a key person of influence, right? I've had a lot of people on this show speaking about being a key person of influence, was exactly what you're saying. You need to be that thought leader within your space, within your sphere, in order to grow your business and in order to make your business recession proof. And it's a really awesome topic that I love talking about. And a lot of people poo-poo that idea of being the thought leader and putting on the mic and the cameras and the podcast, but you need to do it to really recession proof your business, because if you are the face of the business, then you can pivot to whatever you want to do and people will still follow you. And exactly how people have done that with you. You've pivoted from being a title and escrow guy into now being a thought leader about helping other people grow their businesses. I think that's really, really important. So tell me more about the passion there, because you sound like you were doing something just to make ends meet, which was construction management into high-end home flipping. There must be more to it. Like you say there's a passion there, but where does it come from? Is it helping other people, or is it seeing the growth of a business come from, sprouting from nothing? What is it?
Yeah. I think deep down, I believe that the greatest untapped natural resource in the world is that of untapped human potential. And I think my greatest joy in life is seeing other people recognize their own potential and start to fill that role, start to move in that direction. And I see people with tremendous amounts of talent potential who kind of sit on the sidelines, scared of taking an action. And I'm sure you see this as well, Reed, that there's people who have what it takes. The only thing stopping them is one tiny little pathetic fear that's keeping them from really getting in the game. And so if I can help people unlock that and really start to recognize how much they're capable of, it's a thrill for me. It's an absolute thrill for me. And what ends up happening as they do that is that their business grows. Their family then has, the kind of the life that they should have, mm-hmm. and the causes that person supports and contributes to start to have what they have. But again, it all comes down to the person, all of us recognizing that there's way more potential inside of us than we're living up to right now.
So how do you unlock that thinking bigger mentality? Because I know definitely as an Australian coming to the United States, and most Western world countries, people have this sort of image of themselves. They've got these blinkers on. They never can get out of their own bloody way. So how do you start peeling back the onion so it's not so limiting in their belief?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Reed. And I would think that probably the biggest thing that I've found, and probably as a result, it's the architectural design of my show, is that, the Think Bigger real estate movement is really, I interview people like you, and that's exactly why we connected, because I wanted to have you, a big thinker, came here from Australia with literally nothing. In a matter of 8 short years, you've turned it into, this building empire that's now inspiring other people to do the same thing. It's really taking people like you and putting them in front of my audience, because I think one of the fastest ways for us to recognize what we're capable of is to look and to listen to somebody, to see like, wait a minute, I thought that person was a superhero. I don't see a cape. Wait, they're just like me. They did it, so I must be able to do it as well. And so that's kind of the first method, right, is to get people in contact with other big thinkers, high achievers, which gives them then the ability to start to see themselves differently. They start to see themselves inside that person that was where they are, but now they're somewhere where they want to be. And they start to, kind of be this, uncocoon, if you will, and turn into this butterfly. Sorry about the crazy insect analogy, but right, you start to see that, wait a minute, this person isn't that much different than me. Right. They're in a different spot than me, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And I had Grant Cardone, many of you know him, on my show. And, I'd like to say that Grant's definitely, for sure, way wealthier than I am, and definitely smarter than I am. But it was interesting having a conversation with him. It really unlocked for me of we're not that much different. Granted, if you ask the outside world, yeah, you guys are very different, right? But internally, it made me realize okay, Grant's just put a lot of effort on taking some really solid, good ideas and getting them out to the world at 10x levels. And it's more about how well he's gotten at broadcasting his value than even creating the value. No disrespect to his value and the value that he's created, because it's significant. I tune into him every day. But again, I think there are other people out there that maybe have similar value, but they just haven't put the courage behind and the effort behind getting it out to a wider audience. And so again, kind of opportunities like that, both for myself as well as for others. And I realize that, in my little circle, I can't see my greatest potential just by being around the people that I happen to, sit down the hall from or interact with in my day to day. But if I could reach out again to great thinkers, people like Grant Cardone, people like you, and bring them not just in front of my audience, but in front of me, right? And now we're friends, right? We're in the, you're part of my network, you're part of my value offering, and it changes me, and it changes my value offering, and changes my mindset, changes everything.
That's awesome. No, I think it's so much to unpack there. I guess the big thing for me is, how did you start to allow yourself, or give yourself permission to be bigger and think bigger? Because it has to start with you, right? If you're going to be the expert, you would have to have come to a conundrum at your stage of your career, your growth, that you're saying, Justin, I can do this. I can go out and be bigger. I can go out and think 10x and put myself out there. So were there any demons when you started down this path?
Yeah, I think life's greatest appointments oftentimes come from our greatest disappointments. And I had my share of disappointments. I think it's in those times that you really do some deep soul searching. Everything from a construction industry that was failing, and I was on top of the world until I wasn't, right? The industry crashed, and here I was, a father of 2 children at the time, and drinking, actually carrying around on job sites with me a half gallon of milk, because I had an ulcer, and that was the only thing that made it feel better, to where I could finish out the homes. To that experience, to taking a stab at network marketing and literally feeling the lows of all lows of an industry that's really not looked upon well, and having your entire network like frown upon. What are you doing? And feeling like, yeah, like what am I doing? And this is, again, no disrespect to the industry. It just wasn't a fit for me and for the brand and identity that I wanted to create. And going back and saying, like, who am I supposed to be? Like, now it's fast forward. I've got 6 children. I don't know if you knew that about me, but
wow, that's a lot.
my wife and I are very ambitious in that regard. And so, there's not an option to play small anymore. Not just because I have a lot of responsibility, but because I want a lot of responsibility, and not just with taking care of my family, but in helping other people take care of their family. And so, again, kind of going back to those lows, as uncomfortable as they are, and as terrible as they are. And maybe there's someone listening to this today where it's like, man, I have hit an all-time low, right? I'm in debt, significantly. I just lost my job, or my business is failing, or even relationships are failing. If you're in that spot, I know, as easy as it is for me to say, because I'm not in that spot right now, but as easy as it is for me to say this, I'll just say that I've been there. And that moment, this moment that you're in right now, can serve you more than any high times, because again, it causes you to search deep within and say, what am I supposed to be? And this is it. Like, the standards I'm going to set for myself and am setting for myself are way higher than this. I'll never see this place again. This is rock bottom for me. And I'm going to one day be in front of people telling this story. And I hope to inspire other people that are at a low at that point in life, knowing that they can also, create greatness in their form or fashion. So I don't know, maybe that helps somebody.
Yeah, no, it does. I think it totally does. Having those moments of clarity when you are at rock bottom, to having to pick yourself up. But it takes a certain type of, not person, but a certain type of mindset to, even when the chips are down, to know that you can pick yourself back up and pull up your socks, and the sun will rise tomorrow morning. You can count on that, right? And so it's sort of getting out of, you're talking about, you walk around the job site with a gallon of milk to sort of quell a stomach ulcer because you're so bloody stressed. Yeah. It's like the job will get done. There are bigger things you've done. What I find on this show, and I'm sort of squirming a little bit, is that a lot of people do get into these situations where they get to rock bottom. But when we step back to sometimes realize, in the situation, in the moment, you're thinking it's the biggest thing that's going to hit me since, World War II. But when you really break it down, it's like, okay, it's a house and we're a little bit over budget, or it's an issue, we're a little bit over budget, but I'm not like I'm struggling on the streets, or there's a war breaking out outside because we live in a third world country or something like that. Like, there's just so much more perspective to it. And when you start having perspective and you start taking deep breaths and meditating and all that sort of stuff, and realizing we can get over any issue that we face in life if we put our mind to it. I think that is the real key of understanding, putting stuff into perspective when you are in those low moments, which is a real hard, physical thing to do when you're so down on yourself because you think, geez, nothing's working. But I think it's such an important thing to learn and skill to develop as we grow as entrepreneurs. So Justin, I want to get into a little bit more about maybe the nuts and bolts of how you go about when you walk into a business. What are the big things you're looking for when you start to rebrand or start to, we spoke about, obviously there's a mindset of the person who is behind the business, but how do you go out and then we got the mindset. So yes, I'm on board. I love what I'm picking up what you're putting down. What do you then go do to try and implement a strategy to make them that key person of influence, or to make them that thought leader in their little sphere of influence?
It's a great question. I mean, it's a great question. I think there needs to be alignment to start off. I had somebody tell me at one point, they'd never seen anybody do so many consistent live videos. I think for years and years, I've done, live video every day and then some. And they said, how do you do that? I've seen people kind of fizzle out from that. And I said, I just found out that I love talking about what I'm talking about. Like, it doesn't seem like a chore or a burden. And I think in order for a business to be successful, really any business can be successful, right, if they deliver on the promises that they offer to their customers. But the key to that is that there's got to be consistency. I think consistency is the silver bullet. It is the magic bullet. It's the differentiator between mediocre businesses and great businesses. And the reality is, if the owner of the company, the leadership team of the company does not see what they do for a living as part of their own personal brand, then they won't embrace it fully enough to make it consistent enough to ever work. It might work for a period of time because they're looking for the numbers, they're looking for the money, looking for this. But unless the values and the brand of the person are so well reflected in the company, it's at some point it's going to fail. And so I think that even from a starting point, even as much as going back to, kind of the values of the company, and ultimately what's the end contribution that business is going to make into society. Because if people can have that, say, boy, that's me, right? And so for me, this TV back here stands for Think Bigger. And as I've kind of shared my mission of helping untap that greatest untapped resource, which is human potential, for me, that's who I am, to where this doesn't feel like a burden at all to get on and share, because it's me, right? It's a full expression of me. And so again, going back to alignment of actually being able to say, my business is me and I'm my business, right? Not because you don't have any work-life balance. I'm not talking about that. Of course, you're going to go spend time with your family, but it's got to be such just an outspring of who you really are. Then everything else gets really easy, right? All the other components get easy once you get that foundation in place, because now it just becomes more of the tactical, which is, right, kind of top of funnel, right? Which is, how do I reach a really broad audience and start to gain mind share, of really show up in people's minds regularly enough that they think of me? And how does that then turn into enough trust where when I reach out to connect with them and prospect into them, that they want to sit down and meet with me, to where I can share my value proposition, and then delivering on that and having the team and the operations and the infrastructure and the accounting on the back end to fulfill on everything that's promised. But again, I would say alignment with who somebody really is at the core is A1 priority. And then again, from there, casting a really broad net, getting a lot of attention, similar to what I said about Grant Cardone, right? He may or may not have the best content out there, but he's got the best consistent outreach. And so He's in everybody's brain. If you've crossed Grant's path, he starts showing up everywhere, sometimes ad nauseum. Nevertheless, who am I learning from right now? It's Grant, right? Because he's paid the price to own the real estate in my brain. And we all need to do similar. I think we underestimate how much our own content and brand gets diluted with the onslaught of competing inputs in today's world, right? All of the different email, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger, like all these things, text, phone call, TV, like all these things are diluting any value that we bring into the marketplace. And so doing a lot of it is actually super important to be able to have people remember you. They'll never use you if they don't remember you. And so then once you get clear on who you are, then it becomes, okay, we got to get your message out there far and wide, so that then when you reach out to contact, it's not cold. It's, oh, I know you, I've watched you. And that's what's happened. It's been fun in my market. It's like, I call people today who were strangers to me, but they're like, oh my goodness, I love watching your show, or you've come and taught classes in our office. And I'm like, shame on me for not knowing that. But at the same time, that's kind of the fruit of just being really consistent at speaking frequently.
That's awesome. I think it's so important. I think what you just said, they're paid for the price of the real estate in my brain. And that is through consistency. And you're right that there's so much different noise out there today to try and stand out. And so I think, I don't really know the answer to this question, but to stand out from the noise, it's consistency, right? Yeah. So how do you not get a diluted brand or message? You want to still come across as genuine, as down to earth, as not this sort of showboat. Because a lot of people do look at someone like Grant Cardone and they think, geez, he's just, he's always about money. Where's my money at? Where's my money at? Where's my money at? Blah, 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 blah. And they can see a fakeness there. How do you, because you've also got to remember, you don't want to be, particularly in your real estate world, that people want that mano a mano, right? They want that down, humble touch. They don't want to be dealing just with superstars, right? Because superstars can come with an ego, and no one wants to deal with ego. So how do you be creative with that piece of the pie?
I think and this is something that I'm really working on right now, is that, and this again just takes more time and attention, but it's getting the audience engaged, right? If I'm just talking at you, like for example, Rita, if this was you and me talking and it was just you talking at me the whole time, I'd lose interest pretty quick.
Right.
It would be kind of, this is your show and obviously it's all about you. but the fact that you're engaging with some of the best questions I've ever been asked, and I mean that sincerely.
Thank you.
I'm still interested, right? And I'm interested in what you say and your response to that. And so I think from a social media standpoint and a branding standpoint, is that a brand gets a lot further if it can engage its audience. And I'm not saying just speak and then follow up on comments. That's part of it, but actually engage them in the content creation by asking questions. I get, for example, today, and I put out a lot of content where it's just me talking or me interviewing or whatever. Today I asked the question, what would you do if you had to get 2 listings by the end of this year? And like the responses have been fantastic. And it's in 2 different places, both in my closed group as well as out on my public profile. And, the amount of answers, and I've got people calling me saying, man, that was a great question. Here's what I'm doing that's working. So all of a sudden it's crowdsourcing the content, right? It's not about, this is just the Justin show. It's like, no, sure, I'm the moderator, right? And I'm the, I'm the leader of the conversation, but this gets really good when we get everybody's input here. So I think it's going at that approach of like, collectively we're way stronger than individually, and not have it be about building a statue to yourself. But in fact, one of my mentors put it this way. He said, rather than writing a book, I want to see how many of other people's books I can have a chapter in. And I like grammatically, that's way wrong how I just stated that. You get the point of like,
that's right. Yeah, no, I get the point.
How can I make an impact in so many other people's lives as opposed to just people being impressed with my life,
Right. No, because I think there is an element of, there's so much, because at the beginning when you start out, it's all about the Reed Goossens show or the Justin show or whatever, the Grant Cardone show, and it's building this story and this brand and this narrative around it to get people to, oh, I like what he has to say, I like his accent, or I like his down to earth, or I like this and that about it. And then from there, how do you then go and scale a business to then be able to step away from it? Because that's the part that you're obviously giving a lot of great content, but there will come a time when you might want to step away. And I know Grant has a few extra people on his panel right now. He's got his wife who's really involved, so it sort of keeps the spotlight off him a little bit more, so he can just have a normal life, right? Because it is a lot constantly doing content all the time, and I'm sure you know the pain, right? So do you find that with people when they're trying to build that brand that they get to that burnout point? So how do they then build a brand that they don't burn out?
I mean, I think again, A1 back to the alignment is like, in fact, one of my mentors said, if you're concerned about shooting video because you don't know what you're going to talk about, shoot 100 videos, because the first 100 videos aren't for your audience anyway. They're for you to figure out what you want to talk about. So I think part of it is just start talking, even if you don't know what you're going to say yet, because in that process of talking, you're going to find out like, boy, that fired me up. Like that lit my soul on fire when I talked about that. Whereas other things you're like, boy, that's super boring. Like if I were to get up here and talk about title and escrow ins and outs, like you'd be bored, I'd be bored. Maybe someone out there would like it, but it wouldn't be me. Right. But again, that's the business that I'm in. Fortunate for me, I'm not on that side of the business. I'm on really the business development side where I get to work knee to knee with real estate agents. But again, I think it's finding something that you're really passionate about, and that helps prevent the burnout. And then again, I think as you can start to engage more people in it and really get curious about other people, that's one thing that I'm sure you love about, the way you're going about building your brand, the way I'm going about building mine, is that I'm constantly looking to bring other people in that are way smarter than I am, that can contribute to my audience, where it's not just my audience hearing from me, it's my audience hearing from smart people.
That's awesome. I think being curious about other people, and that's how you moderate a show, or that's how you deliver content. I think that's really, really important. So walk me through the business that you have created. For people that are listening to this, are you a coach? Are you a speaker? Like, how do you get paid to do what you do?
Yeah. So I'm actually funded by the title company, right? So I have that's my business. I work for them. And I get paid based on revenue that closes with my title company.
Got it.
So it behooves me to go add as much value as I possibly can to the real estate agents that are producing, that have the ability to tell their clients, we're closing at Old Republic Title. We're going to close at this company. And my goal behind that, right? Kind of the traditional value proposition has been, hey, we'll do a better job of closing your title and escrow, right? That's been the kind of the value proposition. And my role would be out there to tell you like, hey, we have people that will close your deals faster, better, smoother, which I think is the baseline. Of course, you have to do that. Right. But I've made my role not about telling the value that others on my team bring. my goal is really to help them have more closings, right? Not just better closings, but more closings, more and better closings. And so, again, the way that I do that, first of all, I try and lead by example. If I can be building a business in a way that other clients of mine would look to and admire, both from the marketing side as well as the strategy side, as well as the follow-up side, as well as even the sales side. If they can look at me and say, boy, that's how my operation needs to be functioning, would you come in and teach us what you're doing? Or I can reach out to them to say, hey, through my experience in growing previous businesses as well as this one, here's what I do when it comes to prospecting. Here's what I do when it comes to marketing. Here's what I do when it comes to social media. And I can say, I'd love to come in and share that with your team. And I have some credibility because they've seen me do those things, or they've appreciated the way that I've done it. Then that changes the dynamic. I'm no longer just a vendor. I've kind of moved into the mentor role. So that tends to change the dynamic there, and allows them to say, look, we get enough value that we're closing more business because Justin's a part of our business. And number two, his team is fantastic. So it's actually, the closings are better. We're going to try and direct all of our customers to go through his title company, of which I get paid on. So
got it. It's an interesting way, because that is a lot how, my underlying business isn't podcasting or selling books. It's actually investing in real estate.
Right.
And so the value is which you bring to someone else, and you lead with education first and foremost to help them be better, be more, be stronger, be better brand, whatever it might be. In my case, it happened to be about investing here in the United States and how you go about doing it. And if you want to go create businesses that are in and around real estate syndication, fantastic. Or you come and just invest with me and do, just invest alongside of me. So there are underlying businesses, but I think the most important common thread here is that you've got to lead with that education. If you're not leading with that education that you're passionate about, then you don't have anything to build a business on. And I think that is what the differentiating factor is, given that there's so much title companies out in the world, there's so many real estate syndicators out in the world. How do you stand out from the noise? And I think that's a really interesting way how the title company has gone to put you as an educator on the front end to attract more business to the back end, which, I don't want to sugarcoat it for anyone listening to the show. It's like, it's a smart way of doing it. It's a new way of business development, right? So yeah, it's interesting.
And I've had to be okay. I mean, a downside to this is I don't have a very sexy title. Right? I mean, I'm a sales executive, and that's like not very high up the ladder. And this isn't meant to brag, but I've been offered opportunities. Like, do I want to climb that ladder? Do I want to move into kind of the next leadership role? And it's like, for my ego's sake, I totally do, right? I actually want a better title. I want to be VP of this and director of that, head of that. But at the end of the day, that's not really where my passion's at. My passion is actually being in the trenches, knee to knee with agents. And so I've had to overcome that. And I think I would encourage any that work for a large company that you can lead from within. You don't, again, going back to what I had said, what my parents had told me originally is that, look, if you actually want to get ahead, you need to own your own business. Now, Think Bigger Real Estate, Think Bigger LLC is its own business. Keep in mind that there's a separate monetization strategy behind that. But my income right now comes from an employer, right? I'm a W-2 employee, and that wasn't an easy pill for myself to swallow right away, right? Because I'd always seen and preached and experienced the value of being a business for myself. But I realized that this isn't, I don't see it as an employer-employee relationship. They've really have created a platform through which I can reach a lot more people and monetize what I'm doing and have a better quality of life. So again, I see myself here for a long, long time, but I think that there needs to be, within people who aren't just entrepreneurs who go out and start their own business. You can be an entrepreneur. You can, wherever you stand, you can lead, right? You don't have to have the business card or the title on your desk in order to lead. You can build a brand inside of where you're at that benefits where you're at. And that's been an interesting experience for me and my employer too, because they don't know quite what to do with me, right? I'm not the typical employee. And I think they've gotten accustomed to that and they've embraced it, and the results have followed. So far, so good.
Awesome. Well, I think it's a really cool way of illustrating that employee-employer role. And I think it's important to think outside the box. You can do your own thing. You can have your own side hustle, but it can be also help benefit the overall business as well of what the underlying business is, which happens to be a title company in this example. But there's so many other examples that we could go into. Justin, what does the future hold for Think Bigger Real Estate and your brand and your business, in the next decade? Because we are coming to the end of the decade, right? Where
Yeah, we are.
a new decade is upon us. So what's the next decade going to hold for you?
One of my favorite things that I've been taught to do is to not just do an annual goal setting plan, but to actually have the plan be very iterative. To where I go through, I review my goals every morning. It's part of my morning routine. I look at my 10-year goals once a month. And for me, it's long-term, it's a net worth of, $5 million. It's investment properties, whether they be, real estate and or digital assets that have entirely set me free. And really at that point, what's the platform where I can reach the most amount of people? It may very well be the seat that I sit in right now, together with, large keynote speaking opportunities, together with digital paid products on the back end of that. We'll see if my employer loves that idea. But really it's, where can I go to reach the most amount of people to get my message out, which is there's untapped human potential inside of you that I want to help unlock, because that will only make your world and the world a better place. So as far as, what that looks like, ideally, I would be in the same seat that I'm in, just building a massive book of business in the title and escrow space, because that gets me in the trenches working directly with real estate agents, which gives me the content, the place to practice the content, and the day-to-day experience of working with real estate agents in their business, so that then I can go take that content and that material and market it and offer it at scale. That's awesome. So I predict that at some point as early as this year, that monetization strategy may surpass the one that I'm in. But I don't foresee myself wanting to give this one up, because it puts me on the front lines of really learning the best way to help agents.
Sure, but it also puts you in a really powerful negotiation position. So sure. you get to be that key person of influence in and around the title and escrow sphere, where people want to come and do more business with you, and you can pick and choose where you want to direct that business. So I think that's putting yourself in the front, in the driver's seat, does inherently make you recession-proof as a business. And as much as people don't like to hear that, because it's icky to get yourself out there and doing all that publicly facing stuff, you got to kind of get out of your own way, and sometimes in order to attract more and more business. So awesome stuff, mate. At the end of it, I'll be very respectful of your time, because I don't want to go over too long, but at the end of every show, we get into the top 5 investing tips. Are you ready to dive right into it?
Let's do it.
All right, mate. What is the daily habit you practice to keep on track towards your goals?
So again, it's a morning routine that involves a couple of things. Number one, I write my 1-year goals every day, and I write why I want those 1-year goals. So it's not just I want to make X amount of dollars, but it's I want to make X amount of dollars so that we as a family can do this, 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 and this. And I actually rewrite those out. And then I, again, have a plan in place to where I look at the 5-year and 10-year goals on a monthly basis. But reconnecting myself to those goals every day, and actually learned recently to do that at the end of the day, or at least touch base with my goals. And anytime during the day where I'm feeling down, where I'm disappointed, I suffered a loss, to go back to the goals. Because again, if consistency is the magic bullet, I can't allow any time to pass where I'm not working towards my goal. And so oftentimes you suffer a loss, and you want to take the rest of the day off, or you want to mope, or you want to peruse on social media unintentionally. And so revisiting that goal during the day when I've suffered a loss gets me back on the horse faster, allows that the magic bullet of consistency to kick in.
Awesome. No, I think goal setting is hugely important, and it gets it out of your head and onto paper, which is even better, right? You're not thinking about it all the time. Who is the most influential person in your career to date?
As of currently right now, you mean not originally,
but who has just overarching has been the most influential in your career? Looking back, if you were to pinpoint one pivotal moment in your life because of one other person.
Yeah. I would say this is going to be maybe a different answer than you expected, but it's actually my wife.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
Because my wife is the CEO of our home, where we have 6 children, and none of this would be possible. One, I probably wouldn't have the fuel and the desire to want to succeed at a high level if I weren't deeply inspired by 6 little people in her. But the fact that she can run that organization seamlessly with maybe a check-in call during the day, and I come home and things are working well, it inspires me to want to contribute and make her life really, really awesome.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I would say that she's the biggest inspiration for all of it.
Awesome. Awesome. What is the most influential tool in your business? And when I say tool, it could be a software or it could be hardware or it could be something completely out of this world that I don't even know. But what tool do you use on a daily basis to help you be successful?
You know, again, going back to our topic of kind of broadcasting, I would say a microphone and a camera, right? Which oftentimes comes included in one computer. That at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good I am or how much value I can offer. If nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, a simple laptop would be, that's not actually what I'm filming from. I've got a little more sophisticated setup here now, but initially it wasn't. It was my phone. It was the tool of my phone of hitting Facebook Live and doing it consistently for a year and a half every day to where people could hear me, got me out of obscurity. It caused people to know who I am so that they would then start to tune in and actually want to hear more about what I had to offer. And
That's awesome.
me be able to develop what I could offer that would be valuable to people.
No, I think it's a good one. It's a good one. Your phone and being able to have a microphone, right? So
Yeah, broadcast.
that's awesome. But broadcast. You in this career that you've gone down the path in, what has been the biggest failure in one sentence, and what did you learn from that failure?
I think lack of focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say probably as a result of ego. There was a point where I was getting pretty restless in the role that I'm in because I wasn't comfortable not having a bigger title. And it actually took one of my key escrow officers leaving the company to go somewhere else because she thought that another salesperson from another company would take better care of her, which was a real shot to the ego. And I realized, like, what am I doing? One, I've made a commitment to these people that I'll support them better than anybody else. But secondly, I'm in a spot where I can have the life that I want and the audience that I want because of, again, the Think Bigger platform that I'm building, that I don't need a title. So again, the failure would be lack of focus as a result of ego.
Awesome. I think that's a really good one. I think ego can cloud so much vision, so many people's visions and aspirations, because there's a difference between aspirations and there's a difference between ego, and you got to keep them both in check. And I think that's so super important as an entrepreneur when you're building businesses. So check the ego at the door. Mate, last question for you. Where can people reach you to continue the conversation? They want to be in your sphere. They want to check out a little bit more about what you do. Where do they go?
That's really appreciate you asking that. Probably the best place is thinkbigger.realestate. There's no .com at the end of that. It's just thinkbigger.realestate. There you can sign up to get weekly updates as to the interviews that I'm interviewing. There's also a place there you can connect with, the podcast and or the YouTube channel, whatever kind of platform you best use to consume content that will help you think bigger. It can be found there. That's the hub, right, where all the content goes. Mm-hmm. Thinkbigger.realestate. So.
Okay. Cool. Mate, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the show today. I just want to sort of reflect back a few of the things that I took away from today's conversation. I think the biggest one was obviously is consistency, alongside the ability to know that you are who's going to be able to, or how do you imprint someone and go and buy real estate in someone's mind, right? We talk about Grant Cardone and how he's bought the real estate in your mind because of his consistency. And I think that is really important as when you're going out to develop a brand. But the underlying theme of that is by developing a personal brand through consistency and through thought leadership, you're making a recession-proof business. And I think that is what you've learned today, and that's what you're now empowering so many other people out there to do. And I did like your other one before of like lack of focus as a result of ego. I think that's a super, super powerful little bit of gold nugget at the end there. But did I leave anything out, mate?
This has been awesome. It's exceeded my expectations. You're a fantastic interviewer.
Thank you.
It's been a total pleasure, and I'm excited to continue our friendship.
Awesome, dude. Well, look, I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week and the holidays that are coming up, and we'll catch up real soon.
Sounds great, man.
Well, there you have it. Another cracking episode jam-packed with some incredible advice from Justin and how he's gone about keeping a W-2 job, but also helping so many other people out there build their businesses from nothing and really focus on building that thought leadership platform in and around those solo entrepreneurs. If you want to find out any more about what Justin does, please go over to his website at Think Bigger Real Estate. It's not .com, it's thinkbigger.realestate. Make sure all the show notes from today's show will be up on my website at readgoossens.com. And I want to thank you all again for taking some time out of the day to tune in to continue to grow your financial IQ, because that's what we're all about here on this show. And if you do like this show, please give it a 5-star review on iTunes. And we're going to do it all again next week. So be bold, be brave, and remember, go give life a crack.